Those frantic knocks on a neighbor's door came from kids in the home that became the scene of a double murder this week.
It was nerve-wracking for everybody. I mean, they were just a lot going on. They were really stressed, you could tell, and scared, very scared. But they were very brave. 44-year-old Jennifer Marsaw and her 5-year-old son, Marzai Dawson, were shot and killed in their home in Lexington just before 1 a.m. on Wednesday. Investigators charged 53-year-old Irving Marsaw with their murders. He is Jennifer's estranged partner.
On Wednesday, March 18th, 2026, a young girl called 911 from her family's home on the 9300 block of Ryan Place in Lexington, Minnesota. She had just returned from a short walk with 2 of her siblings when she heard several shots fired in quick succession. As they approached the front door, she and her siblings watched a man walk out of the house holding a handgun. Her brother went inside. He found their mother and 5-year-old brother shot. Jennifer Sue Marsaw, 44, was pronounced dead from a gunshot wound to the chest. Her son, Marzai Andrew Dawson, 5 years old, died of his injuries at a nearby hospital shortly afterward. The man who walked out of that door was Irving Van Marsaw, 53, Jennifer's estranged husband. He was arrested approximately 40 minutes later in a wooded area a few blocks from the scene. He was charged the following day with 2 counts of second-degree murder. Those charges were subsequently upgraded to first-degree premeditated murder. What the court documents, police records, and witness accounts revealed in the days that followed is not the story of an unpredictable act of violence. It is the documented account of a system that had every warning available and still could not prevent 2 deaths. Please show support by taking a moment to like, subscribe, and always drop a comment on how you feel. Domestic violence is a serious problem that needs to be tackled in our community. Jennifer Sue Marsaw was 44 years old and a mother of 8 children living in Lexington, a small city in Anoka County, Minnesota. Her youngest child, Marzai Andrew Dawson, was 5 years old. Several of her other children were present in the home on the night she was killed. Her oldest son, Raheem Campbell, described his mother to WCCO in terms that captured who she was day to day.
Every time you seen my mom, she was happy. It didn't matter what the situation was. She could have $1 to her name and she would still make the best out of it.
Raheem's long-term girlfriend, Gianna Ruiz, described the first time she met Jennifer in terms of immediate warmth. "From the moment I met her, I felt at home," she said. "She treated me like a member of the family. She was one of my biggest cheerleaders."
Double homicide that happened at this duplex yesterday rattled the small community of Lexington.
Sad. Kind of makes you sick.
Now we know it was a mother and son who were shot inside. 44-year-old Jennifer Marsaw died there, and her father still in shock.
There's absolutely no way to believe that could possibly be true.
Peter Bowling says the mother of 8 was fun-loving, and 5-year-old Marzai was her youngest.
She had a mess of kids, but she loved every one of them, and they did well.
Authorities say Marzai died at the hospital, and the man accused of the crime had run from the scene, police catching Irving Marsaw hiding in the woods a short time later. Bowling says the 2 were married a couple years ago, a relationship he calls troublesome.
She tried to hide a lot of it from me, I think. And he was in jail several times for abuse, and they kept letting him out.
Jennifer Marsaw was, by every account, a woman who gave generously of herself to the people around her. She was also, according to court records and the accounts of those closest to her, a woman who had been living under conditions of sustained abuse for approximately 1.5 years. Irving Van Marsaw, 53, of Brooklyn Center and Minneapolis, had a documented criminal history spanning more than 20 years at the time of the March 18th shootings. That history was not confined to his relationship with Jennifer Marsaw. Court records show he had been arrested multiple times over 2 decades on domestic violence charges involving different women. In 2018, he sent a text message to one victim that read, "You won't be here on earth to see what your kids look like when they grown." He was convicted of malicious punishment of a child in 2017 and terroristic threats in 2018. In the years prior to the shootings, multiple individuals had petitioned courts for restraining orders against him, with petitioners describing threats to shoot them and unauthorized entry into their homes. The city of New Hope had also filed a restraining order in connection with a 2015 incident at the police department involving Marsaw. He was also accused of violating at least 2 domestic abuse no-contact orders in 2 separate counties in the year leading up to March 18, 2026. Within his relationship with Jennifer, family members and court documents describe a pattern of control enforced through physical violence. He limited her ability to speak freely in his presence. He made repeated physical threats against her and extended those threats to her children. When Raheem Campbell became aware of the situation and considered intervening, Jennifer begged him not to. Irving Marsaw had threatened to kill him and her other children if he did. Tina Bronson, co-executive director of Alexandra House, a domestic violence advocacy organization in Minnesota, addressed the dynamics common in situations like Jennifer's.
We know that the most dangerous time is when the victim survivor is severing that relationship.
Tina Bronson, co-executive director of Alexandra House, works to help domestic violence survivors in Anoka County. She says abusive relationships can prove near impossible to exit safely. Court documents reveal Jennifer made attempts to distance herself from her violent husband. She filed 2 restraining order petitions against Irving, once in November of last year and once in January. Across both, she described how Irving had beat and hit her and had been arrested, how he threatened to kill her children, and how he persistently kept tabs on her, threatening to hurt her if she didn't tell him where she lived.
Jennifer Marsaw had attempted to use the legal system to protect herself on more than one occasion. She filed 2 petitions for harassment restraining orders against Irving Marsaw. Both were granted by a judge. Both were dismissed at her own request approximately 1 month after each was issued. She also had a domestic abuse no-contact order taken out against him in April 2025, which he allegedly violated multiple times. In her own filing, she wrote, "He has threatened to kill my children and myself," and accused him of following her and entering her home without permission. The pattern of seeking and then withdrawing legal protection is one of the most commonly misunderstood aspects of domestic violence cases. Leah Madsen of Women's Advocates, a domestic violence services organization in Minnesota, described the range of pressures victims face. Financial abuse, physical, mental, emotional abuse, spiritual, intellectual, financial, digital abuse. The complexity of those pressures directly affects a victim's ability to sustain legal action against an abusive partner, particularly when children are involved, when financial resources are shared or controlled, and when the threat of escalated violence accompanies any attempt to leave or prosecute. Dismissing a restraining order is not evidence that the abuse was not happening. In the majority of documented cases, it is evidence of how completely the abuse had compromised a victim's ability to act freely.
Domestic violence and intimate partner violence has increased in the state of Minnesota.
Leah Madsen with Women's Advocates, which provides shelter and resources to those facing domestic violence, citing a recent study. Madsen says survivors and victims face a range of challenges in these situations.
Facing financial abuse, they're facing physical, mental, emotional abuse, spiritual, intellectual, financial, digital abuse.
On March 3rd, 2026, approximately 2 weeks before the murders, Minneapolis police officers responded to a domestic incident involving Jennifer and Irving Marsaw. According to court documents reviewed by CBS Minnesota and others, Irving Marsaw choked Jennifer to the point of unconsciousness, causing her to black out for approximately 30 seconds. He then repeatedly kicked and punched her in the head, neck, back and stomach. He forced her into a vehicle and continued the assault. As the car approached a stop sign, Jennifer jumped out. She reported the incident to police. According to the complaint, she stated that she felt like she was going to die. A warrant for Irving Marsaw's arrest on charges related to that attack was not filed until March 17th, 14 days after the assault. According to a spokesperson for the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, the warrant was signed by a judge at approximately 10:30 a.m. on March 17th and entered into the department's warrant tracking system just before 1 p.m. Deputies had not yet made any attempt to serve that warrant before the shootings began less than 12 hours later. On the afternoon of Tuesday, March 17th, Irving Marsaw had an argument with Jennifer at the Ryan Place residence while holding a knife. Jennifer kicked him out of the house. That evening, the two spoke by phone. According to the child witness who later spoke to investigators, Jennifer told Irving during that call that she was taking him to trial. Irving responded with the word bet and ended the call. At approximately 12:52 a.m. on Wednesday, March 18, 2026, one of Jennifer Marsaw's daughters called 911. She and two siblings had stepped outside briefly. On their way back to the house, she heard multiple gunshots. As they reached the front door, she and her siblings watched Irving Marsaw exit the house carrying a handgun. He made eye contact with her brother. Her brother went inside. He found Jennifer and Marzai had both been shot. Officers from the Centennial Lakes Police Department and deputies from the Anoka County Sheriff's Office responded to the call. Jennifer was found deceased at the scene with a gunshot wound to the chest, fired at close range. Marzai Dawson, 5 years old, had been shot in the back at close range. He was transported to a hospital where he was later pronounced dead. Multiple other children were present in the home. Several had fled to neighbors' homes before officers arrived.
At about 12:54 a.m., there was a bunch of knocking at my door, and all I could hear is, "Please help us, please help us, please help us, please, please, please."
Stephen Clark was asleep when three kids, one of them barefoot, ran in the snow from their home to his.
And said he had shot my mom and my little brother. So then we got him inside, closed the door, locked it, and then immediately called 911.
Irving Marsaw was located and taken into custody at approximately 1:33 a.m. in a wooded area a few blocks from the scene. While in custody, he made multiple statements referring to the events as having been carried out in the heat of passion. On March 19th, he was charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. At his first court appearance in Anoka County, he told the judge the case against him was a bunch of lies. The judge set his bail at $5 million, stating on the record that his criminal history produced the highest public safety risk score she had seen in 30 years on the bench. His charges were subsequently upgraded to include 1 count of first-degree premeditated murder and 1 count of first-degree murder.
So I just got out of the first court appearance for Irving Marsaw, the suspect in Wednesday's double homicide in Lexington. Marsaw is now being held on $5 million bail. That was decided in Anoka County Court today. Now, Marsaw is accused of killing his estranged partner, Jennifer Marsaw, and her 5-year-old son, Marzai. During this court hearing, prosecutors noted Irving's previous criminal and domestic violence history. The judge said that Irving's risk to the public safety was the most severe she's seen in 30 years. She didn't even allow conditions on that bail, like GPS monitoring. On his way out of the courtroom, Irving accused prosecutors of lying. The judge essentially ushered him on his way, saying that he would have his day in court. His next appearance is set for April.
Raheem Campbell, Jennifer's son, and his girlfriend Gianna Ruiz were direct in their assessment of how the case reached the outcome it did.
The system failed them, for sure. There was so many times it could have been prevented.
A review of Marsaw's history shows dozens of arrests spanning more than 20 years, including convictions for multiple domestic violence charges involving women.
The sequence they were pointing to is specific and documented. The March 3rd assault was reported to police. A warrant for Irving Marsaw's arrest was not filed until 14 days later. That warrant was not served in the hours it existed before the shootings. Irving Marsaw had a 20-year documented history of violence against multiple women, including a prior text message to a victim threatening that she would not live to see her children grow up. He had violated at least 2 no-contact orders in 2 counties in the preceding year alone. Tina Bronson of Alexandra House noted the broader pattern. It's not like she hasn't been calling it in. Jennifer Marsaw had sought legal protection. She had contacted law enforcement. She had filed documentation with courts. The barriers that prevented those actions from producing a different outcome are systemic, and they are not unique to this case.
We know that the most dangerous time is when the victim survivor is severing that relationship.
Tina Bronson, co-executive director of Alexandra House, works to help domestic violence survivors in Anoka County. She says abusive relationships can prove near impossible to exit safely. Court documents reveal Jennifer made attempts to distance herself from her violent husband. She filed 2 restraining order petitions against Irving, once in November of last year and once in January.
The details of the Jennifer Marsaw case are specific to her circumstances. The pattern it reflects is not. Domestic violence homicide follows documented warning signs that researchers and advocates have identified across decades of case analysis. Among the most consistent high-risk indicators are a history of strangulation or choking by the abuser, which Irving Marsaw carried out on March 3rd. Explicit death threats directed at the victim and her children, which Irving Marsaw made repeatedly and in writing. A victim's decision to leave or to pursue legal action, which Jennifer communicated directly on the phone call the night before the shootings. And a perpetrator with a prior documented history of violence against multiple different partners over an extended period. All of those indicators were present and documented in this case before March 18, 2026. One of the most important and least discussed aspects of this case is Jennifer's decision to dismiss her own restraining orders. For many observers, that decision is difficult to understand. For researchers and advocates who study domestic violence, it reflects the reality of what victims face. Leaving an abusive relationship or pursuing prosecution is not a single decision made once in a moment of clarity. It is a process carried out under active threat with financial, emotional, familial, and safety considerations that shift constantly. A victim who dismisses a restraining order is not communicating that she is safe. She is communicating how complex her situation actually is. Understanding that distinction matters because the alternative, treating withdrawal of legal protection as evidence that the danger has passed, is what allows cases like this one to reach the outcome they do. Jennifer Sue Marsaw was 44 years old. She was a mother of 8 children, described by everyone who knew her as someone who made the people around her feel at home. Her 5-year-old son, Marzai Andrew Dawson, had not started school. Several of her children were in the house when she was killed, and it was one of her daughters who called 911. Irving Van Marsaw is in Anoka County custody without bail, facing charges of first-degree premeditated murder for the deaths of both Jennifer and Marzai. The case is moving toward prosecution. What Raheem Campbell and Gianna Ruiz said after the arrest deserves to be the lasting statement from this case. There were so many times this could have been prevented. They are right, and the only way that changes in future cases is through a combination of better system response, faster warrant service, fuller enforcement of no-contact orders, meaningful accountability for repeat offenders, and deeper community understanding of how domestic violence operates so that the people around victims know how to help and know why it is never as simple as telling someone to leave. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence in Minnesota, the 24-hour Minnesota Day 1 hotline is available at 866-223-1111 or by text at 612-399-9995. Women's Advocates Crisis Line is available at 651-227-8284. Outside Minnesota, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available at 1-800-799-7233 at any hour or by texting START to 88788. Rest in peace, Jennifer. Rest in peace, Marzai. I appreciate y'all for watching till the end and subscribing. Let's keep the momentum going. Hope you learned something today. Goodbye.